When Haru was a small boy, he asked Santa Claus why he never brought him any presents. Santa Claus told him that it was because his family was poor. He advised the boy that if he could get everything he wanted, he should be diligent and hardworking. His words hit the boy hard, and he carried the ideology until teenhood. Years later, on December 24th, the staff of a company are waiting by the entrance of their work building, panicking because their important manuscript has not been delivered to them yet. One of them tells the others not to worry since the fastest bicycle service is on its way. The bicycle delivery boy arrives, but a small rock on the road causes him to crash. He stands up like it was nothing. He removes his helmet, revealing that he is Haru, now 16 years old. Now that the men are glad to have their important document, Haru accepts the payment and leaves with his bike. Just as he starts moving forward, a baseball hits his face, sending him crashing into some stairs. Later on, Haru encounters some of his classmates from high school, who are on their way to a Christmas party. They invite him to come with them, but he says he is in the middle of work and he has no money for it because his family is poor. Back at the office, Haru's boss fires Haru, revealing that he knows that the boy has lied about his age to get the job. The man tells him that it was his parents who informed him of the lie and that he has given them his monthly salary. Haru tells him that he should not have done that because his parents would just invest the money in some unrealistic dream. He runs home in a hurry before anything happens to his money. Arriving home, he sees that their apartment is now empty. He sees the salary envelope on the table, only to be disappointed that inside is a note from his mother telling him that she had already invested his money, leaving him with only a few coins left. The bad news is not over, as there is an envelope taped to the window. He opens it, and he is shocked to see that it is a bill, stating he has a debt of over 100 million yen. A note from his parents states that they have borrowed money from some people, and now they have given the debt to him as a present for Christmas. The people his parents owe money to suddenly barge into the apartment. Haru tells them that his parents are no longer with them. The men tell him he can pay off the debt himself by working in a coal mine on some island, donating his organs, and other seemingly illegal activities. The scared boy crashes through his window and runs to escape them. He ends up by the bench in the park, where it suddenly snows. It just hits him that his parents abandoned him, and that he has a huge debt. He declares that what Santa said about working diligently was a lie all along, and he wants to abandon the ideal. He sees that girl by the vending machine, trying to get a drink. The boy hides in the bushes, planning to kidnap the girl for some ransom money. He then sees that some young men are trying to pick up the girl. They force the girl to go with them, so Haru punches one of them in the face. The men get so scared of the boy that they run away. The girl thanks him and introduces herself as Nagi. The weather is so cold that she sneezes. Haru lends her his jacket, and while Nagi thinks the material is cheap, she is still appreciative since it makes her warm. She tells the boy she will do anything for him because of his good deed. He still wants to take the girl for ransom, so he asks her to go out with him. Nagi misunderstands what he is saying as a confession of love, making her blush and agree. The boy asks for her guardian's number and heads to the phone booth. Left alone at the vending machine, Nagi discovers a note in the boy's jacket that says the boy's name is Haru. Meanwhile, Haru is at the phone booth, dialing the number. The moment the other side answers, he accidentally gives away his name, forcing him to put down the phone. He gets out of the booth and trips, accidentally losing the coins he has left in the hole leading to the sewers. He has lost hope and lies on the floor, believing that it does not matter if he is diligent or evil. Nothing will still go his way. A young woman helps him get back up and gives him her scarf. Her kind smile softens the boy's mood, and he breaks down in tears. He contemplates how stupid he feels trying to kidnap someone when there are good people like the young woman in the world. He gets up to see that Nagi is being forced to go in a car by suspicious men. To rescue her, Haru borrows the kind woman's bike and rushes to the car with inhuman speed. Inside the car, Nagi screams Haru's name. As if he had heard her, the boy appears in front of the car, only to get hit. However, he still jumps back on the hood of the car with an intimidating face. The kidnappers come to fear Haru, so they stop the car. Later, the police arrive to take away the kidnappers. The girl approaches Haru and asks what she can do to repay him for everything. Haru asks for a job, only to collapse from accumulated injuries. The kind woman from before, Maria, appears before Nagi, and it turns out they know each other. Nagi tells her that the boy saved her life, and so she owes him a job. A helicopter arrives to pick Nagi and Maria up. The girl declares that she is a Sanzanin, and that Haru will be her new butler. Haru is on top of the clouds. Santa Claus appears and tells him that he is already dead. While Haru tells him that it is a shame that no one will grieve for him, Santa tells him he deserves it since he tried to kidnap someone. The boy goes to his knees, apologizing for what he almost did. He wakes up, realizing that it was all just a dream. He sees that he is in a wealthy and huge room, so he believes that he must be in heaven. Elsewhere at the mansion, Nagi tells Maria that she is committed to making the boy her new butler, and that not only did he save her life, but he also confessed his feelings to her. Maria does not know what is going on, so she wants to learn more. Meanwhile, Haru has come across the bath area, where he relaxes in the hot water. He realizes that Maria is also by the pool. She tells him that his wounds will open up due to the hot water. As she says so, the boy collapses. He wakes up again in the same room, with Maria watching over him this time. She introduces herself as the maid of the mansion, and says that the girl he saved is her master. She asks the boy about what happened at the park. Haru feels like he was caught in a crime and apologizes to the maid. Maria gets confused, so Haru goes into detail, revealing that he has an enormous debt and that he tried to kidnap Nagi. Nagi comes into the room, so Haru apologizes to her for what he tried to do in the park. The girl still thinks he is talking about his confession of love to her, and tells him that they should take things slow. He asks the boy if he is looking for a lived-in work, and offers him the job of being her butler. The boy mistakenly thinks that she has forgiven him for trying to kidnap her, and thinks that the girl is kind for still offering him a job after what he did. He holds the girl's hands, and excitedly tells her that he is glad to accept the job. The girl mistakes his action for a romantic gesture, making her blush. Maria looks at the two, thinking that she is surrounded by people with empty heads. Maria speaks to the head butler, Klaus, about Haru's qualifications as a butler. Klaus does not approve of the boy, and asks Maria to send him away. Elsewhere in the mansion, Haru is all dressed up in his new butler uniform. The maid tells him that he needs to clean the rooms of the mansion. As they walk the halls, Haru is all fired up, determined to make his new job a new beginning for his life, and a way to pay his huge debt. Maria sees how excited he is that she does not have the heart to send the boy away. The boy cleans the rooms so perfectly that they are sparkling. He tells the maid that he worked at a sanitation company when he was 8 to get money for his parents' drink-off, and that he learned all the cleaning tricks. He did such a perfect job, Maria can't find a reason to send him off. While exploring for another room to clean, Haru comes across the open door of a study. On a desk is a notebook full of amateur manga panels. Nagi discovers Haru reading her manga, and she gets angry and tells Haru to leave. Exiting the mansion, the men trying to collect the debt from him see him and force him into their car. Back in the mansion, Nagi is playing video games as Maria comes in to ask him if he is really done with Haru. The girl realizes that she can't just abandon her savior and changes her mind about kicking him out. Meanwhile, Haru is taken to the harbor by the debt collectors. They hold his arms and show him the ship where they will put him. Nagi, with a mask, suddenly shows up to stop the men, claiming to be Mask the Money, a friend of her real identity. She tells Haru that Nagi is sorry for yelling at him and that she wants her back, so the boy accepts the apology. The men try to go near Mask the Money, so Haru instinctively uses his body to shield her from the men. Mask the Money pays the men what Haru owes, so the men leave him alone. While Nagi intends the money to be a gift to Haru, Haru mentions that she is wearing a silly mask, making Nagi so angry that she tells the boy he needs to pay back the money someday. Haru and Nagi's arguments stop as the snow starts to fall, and they bask in its cozy atmosphere. Maria tells Haru that it will take him 40 years to work for them to repay his debt to Nagi. He is a bit stunned, as Nagi adds that he should be grateful that there isn't any interest. Later, Haru and Nagi play video games as she tells him about the mansion. She states that Haru, herself, and Maria are the only people living there. The boy replies that living with a beautiful woman will make him nervous. Nagi initially assumes he means her, and immediately gets angry upon hearing that he meant Maria. She immediately beats up his character in the video game and threatens to murder him 48 times, and puts him in 52 submissions before stomping off, leaving Haru dumbfounded. A few days later, it is December 31st, and Haru reminisces about all that has happened to him while sweeping the courtyard. He got dumped by his parents, hired by Nagi, and now lives in Sanzanin Mansion. Later, he sees Maria in the kitchen and inquires what a butler should do. She answers that basically, he will be Nagi's pet, and she orders him to wake his master up. Upon entering the room, he is shocked to see a huge white tiger sleeping beside her. Nagi wakes up and says that the white tiger is actually a cat, and its name is Tama. Haru, though, is worried it might kill Nagi and prepares to pounce. Suddenly, Klaus appears from under the bed and is introduced as the household's head butler. Being scared of Tama, Klaus deems Haru unworthy of being a butler and suggests he be fired. Klaus states that Tama hates everyone except the 2 girls in the mansion. However, he insults the tiger while saying this, causing the beast to retaliate by slashing Klaus's face. It then grabs Haru and jumps out of the window. Haru is unfazed, telling the tiger that he is used to dealing with wild beasts since he used to steal meat from lions in the zoo to feed his parents. Meanwhile, Haru and Klaus agrees that if Haru wins the fight, he can stay, but will be fired if he loses. Haru remembers the night he was saved by Nagi and vows to give it his all. Maria then walks to the garden and is distraught to see her flower garden ruined. She sees Tama mauling Haru nearby and demands to know if they are responsible. She then surmises that the 2 were forced to fight because of Nagi and Klaus. She looks up the window and flashes an incredibly intimidating smile at the 2, saying she will deal with them after she treats Haru's wound, leaving them shaking. After treating the poor butler's injury, the kind maid explains that Nagi found Tama in Africa. It was a small kitten back then, and she brought it to the mansion, where it grew up in luxury. Because Tama grew up pampered, it can't be brought to the zoo. Hayata looks at Tama with a newfound sense of sympathy, as he says that they were both saved by Nagi, and are thus alike. Tama suddenly transforms into a humanoid form and speaks, saying that an idiot butler and can't be the same. He then stomps off while warning Haru not to tell anyone he can talk. The boy is left stunned. Later, Klaus and Nagi argue about whether Haru is qualified to be a butler. Maria suggests giving the hopeful young applicant a test to ascertain his abilities. One of their initial suggestions is to have him fall from a height of 2,000 meters, and then make him swim through a vat of boiling tar. Later, Klaus leaves to prepare for the exam. Haru hears Maria and Nagi talking about the rich girl's faith in him, and is determined to do his best. Klaus then calls them for the test, and Haru is stunned to see a robot made by the Sanzanin Technology Division. Klaus explains that they will not fight but compete to see who can better serve Nagi. The petulant girl then starts hurling insults at the robot, angering it and causing it to attack her. Haru jumps in to save Nagi and faces off against the robot, which to his surprise, is armed with missiles. The robot later hits the sink, sending water splashing everywhere. The quick-thinking butler then pins the robot down using knives and forks. He then grabs a cord and electrocutes the robot, sacrificing himself in the process and taking comfort because he protected Nagi. With the robot defeated, Klaus says Haru can remain. The newly hired butler wakes up in bed and asks Nagi if he has passed. She says yes, and then does a formal initiation of master and butler. Maria walks in and is happy that Haru can now remain. Haru is cleaning the garden and spots Nagi leaving the premises in a car. Inside, Maria sees a lunchbox and realizes that Nagi forgot to bring it. She tells Haru that Nagi goes to Hakuwu Academy, a school for rich kids, and that he has to bring the lunchbox to her inside the academy, as Nagi can't stand the cafeteria food. Upon arriving, the diligent butler is amazed at the size of the school. He is stopped from entering by a teacher who mistakes him for a trespasser. He says he is Nagi's butler, but she attacks him and calls him a liar, saying there is no butler who looks as poor as him. Haru, though, refuses to back down, saying it is his duty to deliver Nagi's lunchbox. They begin circling each other as Haru wonders how he will get past her. Suddenly he realizes they actually circled all the way to switch places, and now he is at the entrance and can easily enter. 3 students who were watching, Miki, Izumi, and Risa, said they would help the teacher find the intruder. Meanwhile, Haru gets lost, hears a voice, and looks up and sees a girl on top of a tree. She asks for a favor, saying he needs to catch her. She jumps before he is ready, stepping right in his face, sending him crashing down as she safely lands. They banter for a bit, as he wonders why she climbed. She says she is actually afraid of heights, but climbed up to save a little chick. Meanwhile, Maria calls Nagi to inform her that Haru is on the way to deliver her lunchbox, news that pleases the young lady. Back on the school grounds, the girl Haru helped introduces herself as Hina and said that she is the student council president. As a thank you, she offers to take him to the top of the academy tower. Elsewhere, the teacher is still looking for Haru. She tells 3 girls to search all over the academy to find the intruder. At the top of the tower, Haru is amazed at the view of the city, while Hina states that it's perfect for spying on everyone. From the top, Haru spots the cafeteria and heads there with the lunchbox. However, they are stopped by Yuri, who turns out is Hina's sister. The bloodthirsty teacher picks up a sword and says she will annihilate Haru since viewers are expecting a fight scene at the end. Hina picks up a sword and engages her sister in a flashy sword fight. With Haru distracted by the action scene, Yuri pilfers the lunchbox and runs to the edge of the railing. Yuri dares Hina to get the lunchbox, but Hina asserts her authority as student president, declaring Haru as her guest. Yuri gives up and is about to give the lunchbox back when a strong wind suddenly blows her off the edge. However, Haru catches her, preventing her from falling to her death, but she drops Nagi's lunchbox, ruining the food. Haru is tense with worry, but Nagi arrives and deduces everything that happened. She thanks Haru and says she now has an excuse to go home, but he tells her she needs to stay at school. Meanwhile, we see the three girls loafing off and happy that the intruder gave them an excuse to skip class. It's morning, and Haru dutifully prepares breakfast, readies her clothes, and cheerfully encourages Nagi, who sees that it's a beautiful day, so she goes straight back to bed. Maria arrives and explains that Nagi has already gone to school before, and probably thinks that is enough for the entire semester. Maria adds that the girl doesn't like going outside at all, as everyone is always after her money. The phone rings, and Maria tells Nagi that Sakuya is calling. She hands the phone to Nagi, who promptly hangs up on her. Just then, Sakuya smashes through the window into hallway enraged at being hung up on. She immediately demands Maria make her tea, but Nagi pours a hot cup on her relative. The two rich friends chat at the table, and Nagi asks why she visited. Sakuya answers that she has heard about the new butler, and is here to check how funny he really is. Out in the garden, Haru is tending to the flowers when Sakuya arrives and assaults him. She then interrogates him, asking his name. Upon hearing his answer, she declares it's too boring, and says she will call him Munchie the soybean farmer. Out of nowhere, Nagi enters with a flying kick to Sakuya's face, as she tells him not to give her butler silly pet names. Sakuya says she is going to turn him into a comedian. She says he lacks impact, and berates him for thinking he is so great just because he is on a comedy show. Haru thinks that he needs to make her happy, so he says he will share his best slapstick gag. Sakuya doesn't find it funny but likes his style. Back inside, Sakuya complains about the cold, saying it's the butler's fault for not making them laugh more. Maria says that Sumi is coming to visit, but Sakuya worries she might be lost as the other guest has no sense of direction. Meanwhile, Maria is out of tea and asks Haru to buy some. Worried he might catch a cold, she lends him a valuable cashmere coat worth more than he is. As such, he must not get a single speck of dirt on it. In another house, we see three men in suits looking for their mistress. They see a letter saying she went out to visit Nagi. They get worried, as she will surely get lost and may even get kidnapped. On the road, Haru is taking every precaution to keep the coat clean, avoiding falling paint, multiple bowls of noodles, and lots of small octopus. He passes through the park and runs, seeing a girl staring at a vending machine. She places a talisman paper which the machine rejects. Haru tells her that she needs to put money for it to work. She faces him with a blank expression and says she is breaking the rules by talking to a stranger, but she shares that she is lost and needs help. Haru is worried that she might be in trouble, but still offers to help. He is glad to guide her to her destination, but she can't remember where she is going. Suddenly, her bodyguards all arrive and demand that Haru hand her over. He thinks they might be kidnappers, and they think the same of him and pull out their swords. Haru grabs Sumi and flees from the men. As he carries her across the trees, the tone turns romantic as Sumi looks at him in slow motion, like a dashing savior. It turns out she wants to say they are now over a pond, and there are no nearby trees to jump to. Upon seeing this, Haru and Sumi fall. Worried about the coat, he makes a desperate attempt to use it as a rope and throw it at a branch, but the coat rips, and they splash into the water. Haru looks with worry at the now filthy and ripped coat, and wonders what will happen to him when Maria finds out. Sumi offers to pay for the damage, but Haru says it is his burden, so he will take responsibility and continue to protect her from the evil men in black. She tries to say they are her bodyguards, but is unable to get a word in, as Haru rambles on about protecting her no matter what. She then starts to dry his face, so he won't catch a cold and die. As she rubs his cheek, he sneezes, making her fear she is too late. Haru decides to take her somewhere safe and brings her to the gates of the mansion. He talks about Nagi, saying she is stubborn yet kind. He rings the doorbell, then leaves Sumi there in front of the gate, saying she will surely be let in. Meanwhile, the bodyguards are still on the hunt for who they think is the kidnapper. While inside the mansion, Nagi refuses to eat until Sumi arrives. Nagi is reading a manga when she sees Sumi enter the mansion. She is surprised, as she expected her friend to be lost and not arrive until later. Sumi says she ran into Haru and casually mentions that he needs medical attention or he will die, which stuns Nagi and Maria. Under a bridge, Haru is sneezing and wondering how he can get the coat fixed, or else he will never be able to return home. Just then, he is spotted by the men his parents borrowed money from. On the other side, Sumi's bodyguards arrive and see the men as competition for Haru. Everyone takes their swords out, and Haru tries to sneak away, which somehow turns everyone against him. He thinks about the coat, and how he should have just gone back and told Maria the truth. As all the men jump at him, he tosses the coat up and flees. At the mansion, Nagi is worried sick, and wants to go out to help him as soon as possible. Sumi shares that the coat was already destroyed. The doorbell rings, and Nagi tells Maria that she shouldn't get angry no matter what state the coat is in. Before opening the door, Nagi asks Sumi if Haru said anything about her, but Sumi only remembers the negative stuff that angers Nagi. Upon opening the door, Haru is greeted by Nagi's enraged face. She shuts the door on him, leaving him lying on the porch. Later in the bedroom, Klaus checks Haru's temperature and confirms he has a fever. Nagi wonders how he could have gotten sick just by being out for a few minutes, causing everyone to look at her as heartless. Later that evening, Sumi gives Haru a glass of warm milk. Nagi notes that he hasn't had anything to eat, so he says he would surely devour anything she prepared for him. Haru looks worried, but quickly assures Nagi that he is looking forward to what she prepares, causing her to rush into the kitchen. In the kitchen, Sakuya and Tama see that Nagi has zero experience and skill in cooking, and worry for Haru's well-being. In the hallway, Sumi tells Maria how she finds the butler to be such a manly gentleman. Maria realizes that Sumi also has a crush on Haru, and worries that this might cause complications in the plotline. In the bedroom, Nagi serves her curative kanji. It looks okay, so Haru takes a bite, but is immediately struck by how awful it is. It tastes mostly of vinegar, is not cooked, and has a disgusting taste. Nagi worries about the reaction because he doesn't like it. Haru lies, saying he found it delicious, causing Nagi to beam with joy. She then tells Haru to eat the rest, assuring him that she made a lot. In the kitchen, Maria sees that Nagi used dish soap instead of oil. In the bedroom, Haru managed to finish the kanji. Nagi takes the dirty dishes to the kitchen, and Maria enters, amazed that Haru is still alive. She keeps talking about the dish as Nagi returns and overhears their conversation from outside the room. Haru says that even if the food was bad, the idea that someone would try to take care of him was quite sweet. He shares how his parents only cared about gambling and never took care of him like this. Maria leaves, and Nagi sneaks into the room as Haru sleeps. She gets on the bed, thanks him, and is about to kiss him when he opens his eyes and says it is hard for him to sleep with her being so close, causing her to beat him up. The next day, Haru wakes up refreshed and feeling better. He sees a new maid in the hallway named Saki. She reminds him that his wardrobe must always be impeccable, and then trips as she walks away. Haru tells Maria about this encounter. She says that the other maid doesn't work for her, so just ignore everything she says, and that a difficult guest will be arriving soon. Maria tells Nagi about the situation, who in turn calls Klaus, saying there are intruders in the mansion and to get them out. He may use guns, but not shoot to kill. Outside, Haru sees a weird kid acting full of teenage angst. He figures that this must be a difficult guest. The punk kid orders Haru to jump in the lake, and is later a bit surprised to see that Haru is not angry. Saki arrives and asks the guest what that device is, and we pan to see a robot hovering above the lake. It states that multiple targets have been acquired, and switches to termination mode before firing at the 3 humans who try to run away. Haru knows his duty as a butler is to safely escort the guest to the living room, so he grabs them both, jumps high in the air, and crashes through the ceiling right into the guest room. Nagi looks displeased to see the boy, who we learn is Taro, and that he is, in fact, Nagi's fiancé. Haru is still processing the news that Nagi has a fiancé, as he never even suspected she had a boyfriend. Nagi furiously states that Taro is not a boyfriend, but just someone her parents paired her up with. Haru wonders what will happen to the family name if they get married, but Maria says there is no worry because Taro will be like a leech marrying into the family and taking her name. Taro is angered at the thought of taking her name, and says he is the only chance someone as selfish and rude as her will have to marry. The ruckus wakes up Sumi, who sees Taro, and asks if he is also there to evaluate the skills of the new butler. Taro blushes when he sees her, and he is clearly shy around her. He is suddenly on his best behavior, saying that he and Nagi never fight. Maria explains that Taro has a huge crush on Sumi. Nagi says that they are looking for an excuse to call the engagement, and she is trying to get Sumi to like Taro back. Maria suggests they all have breakfast. Haru asks Sumi if she would like a Japanese-style breakfast, and Taro quickly notices Sumi's reaction and suspects she might like Haru. He then angrily challenges the butler to a violent pre-breakfast battle. Taro walks out, sword in hand. Nagi says losing could be character building, so Haru should beat him up until he is near death. Haru practices a bit on a rock, slicing it to pieces, which unnerves Taro. Still, he remains determined to fight, but he can't back out with Sumi watching. Meanwhile, Haru thinks about how he can use this situation to bring Taro and Sumi closer together. He decides to lose on purpose and make Taro look good. However, his acting is so obvious that it is clear to everyone watching what happened. Sumi even praises him for losing on purpose to not damage Taro's pride. The young fiancé can't handle the embarrassment and runs away in tears, vowing never to forgive the young butler. Later inside, Haru thinks about how he should apologize to the distraught boy, while Nagi suggests they just forget about them. Sumi says whoever made Taro cry should apologize, causing Nagi to retort that it was actually her who did it. Haru asks where Taro lives, and they say he lives on top of a building in downtown Shinjuku. Nagi gives Haru a package to give to Taro. In the street, he runs into Saki, who offers to escort Haru up. She says she is still shy and jumpy around him though, after he carried him during the last episode. They arrive at the location, and Saki points at a 2-story video rental store in the midst of all the tall buildings and says this is where Taro is. They enter, and Taro immediately grabs Haru, demanding to know what he is doing there. The kind butler quickly gives the package to Nagi, which makes Taro curious. Saki explains that Taro's family is on the verge of bankruptcy, and the fiancé agreement is just a way to get their hands on Nagi's fortune. But Taro is determined to make the video rental even more successful. He adds that 99% of his business is renting videos to Nagi. Haru offers to register as a member, but Taro is surprised to see that Haru is already registered. The butler is shocked and realizes it was his father who did it. Taro sees that Haru has 158 unreturned videos and actually owes over 1,000,000 yen. Back at the mansion, he realizes his debt just keeps growing. Nagi is trying to find every excuse imaginable to avoid going to school, much to the dismay of her devoted butler, Haru. Nagi feels like her butler should be happy that she is not going to school, since it means they get to spend time together. So she is disappointed to see that the boy seems to have no feelings for her. Maria, the wise and caring maid of the Sanzanin mansion, notices Nagi's behavior and decides to delve deeper into Haru's feelings. In an attempt to gauge his affection for her master, Maria asks Haru what his ideal woman looks like while they clean the mansion grounds. Since the boy harbors a secret crush on Maria herself, the butler answers that he likes older women, inadvertently disappointing Maria. Meanwhile, at Hakuou Academy, Nagi's absence from school caught the attention of the members of the student council, Izumi, Miki, and Risa. They deduce that Nagi must have a new butler and decide to pay a visit to the Sanzanin mansion, intending to cause trouble for the new servant. Back at the opulent mansion, Nagi seizes an opportunity to spend time with Haru by asking him to dress in a sailor school uniform. Despite his embarrassment, Haru looked surprisingly good in the outfit, prompting the girl to snap a picture of him. Not only is the boy embarrassed, but he also fears any evidence of him wearing girls' clothing, since Klaus warned him that he should not be caught wearing anything but manly clothes to keep his job. Amused by Haru's discomfort, Maria joins in the playful teasing by suggesting Nagi for more outfits for the butler to wear. Their antics escalate as they settle for a feminine cat costume, much to Haru's further embarrassment. Tama, the tiger, unexpectedly wakes up and becomes enamored with Haru in his feline attire. A chaotic chase ensued, resulting in Tama crashing through a window with Haru, sending their chase to outside grounds. To stop the tiger's lust, Haru kicks him, knocking him out. Unlucky for the butler, Klaus shows up just in time. Haru attempts to evade the head butler to not be seen in the cat costume, but the man still sees him and mistakes him for an intruder due to his disguise. The head butler takes a closer look at the intruder, only for him to fall in love at first sight, unable to recognize the butler. Before Klaus can harass the boy, Maria intervenes and knocks the head butler out with a spring-loaded boxing glove. Maria then returns Haru to his regular butler attire, which leaves the boy feeling grateful towards her. However, Nagi couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy after seeing Haru's admiration for Maria. Unbeknownst to them, the members of the student council have been observing these events from afar, mistakenly assuming that the Sanzanin household had acquired a new maid, in addition to a new butler, due to Haru's cat disguise. Seeking to tend to his wounds from the earlier chaos, Haru retreats to the mansion's nurse's clinic, where he unexpectedly encounters Sumi because she got lost. Due to the late hour, Nagi insists that Sumi stay overnight at the mansion. Later that night, Haru finds himself in the mansion's game room, where he discovers Maria playing billiards. Maria invites the boy to join her in a game, using it as an opportunity to probe Haru about his feelings towards Nagi. As they play, Maria shares a heartfelt story about Nagi and Sumi's long-standing friendship, which had begun years ago at an extravagant party, when Nagi was being made fun of by the other kids because of her hand-drawn manga. Feeling frustrated, Nagi throws away her manga in the trash bin, promising to never make manga again. However, Sumi picked up the manga from the trash and read it. Instead of making fun of Nagi, the girl asked to know what happened next in the story. Nagi was so thrilled to find someone like her that they have become best friends ever since. Back in the present, Nag and Sumi are in the bedroom. Nagi is passionately telling one of her stories to the visitor, while Sumi is on the edge of her seat, listening. To make the billiards game interesting, Haru and Maria make a bet that the winner can make the loser do anything he or she wants. Maria says that if she wins, she will round off Haru's debt of 200 million since the former number is a mouthful. Haru is determined to win, but Maria is too skilled of a player for that to be realistic. Maria says another way to pay his debt is for him to marry Nagi. Haru is so surprised by the proposition that he misses the billiard ball in his turn. He tells Maria that he cannot marry Nagi because it would mean he would only marry her for her money. Aside from that, he cannot see Nagi falling for someone like him. Maria is so touched by his answer that she decides to stop looking into the boy's feelings. Despite it being easy for Maria to shoot the last ball in the hole, she deliberately misses, giving Haru a chance to win. Haru successfully shoots the last ball in his turn. With him winning the bet, he is hesitant to ask the maid for his request. Nagi happens to pass by in the game room to see how perverted Haru looks in his hesitance to ask the maid about his request that she hit him. As the commotion settles, Maria asks Haru what he had intended to request of her. It turns out, all the boy wants is for the maid to forgive him for accidentally ruining the cashmere coat. On the morning of the Senzanin mansion, Nagi pleads with Sumi to stay, since she is afraid that she will no longer see her best friend again. Sumi, with her usual serene demeanor, gently responded that they could always see each other if Nagi attended school regularly. The simplicity of Sumi's words leaves Nagi speechless. As the car carrying Sumi departs, everyone else waves their goodbyes, but Nagi remains stubbornly silent, unable to bring herself to bid farewell after the girl's comment. Haru looks at Nagi with concern, worried about how her master is so reluctant to return to school, despite having a friend who wants her there. Determined to motivate Nagi, the next morning, Haru lifts her up from her bed, coaxing her awake for school. The girl tells him that she has no intention of going to school. Haru tells her that he will be walking her to school to make sure she goes, softening up the girl to go. Despite her reluctant demeanor, she finds herself seated behind Haru on his bike on their way to Hakuo Academy. Maria's advice to Nagi, urging her to visit her grandfather, despite the girl's adamant hatred of the idea. She agrees to the visit, albeit with a sense of inconvenience. The group embarks on a journey to the Sanzanin estate via a large helicopter. Along for the ride is Sakuya, a relative of the Sanzanin family, who adds her own perspective on the formidable figure of Mikado. During the journey, Nagi and Sakuya describe Mikado as a larger-than-life, intimidating presence, cautioning Haru to be careful in his interactions. They arrive at their destination, which is a huge castle on top of a mountain. For the granddaughter's mere visit, all the organized servants line up to welcome the group into the castle. Haru now sees that Nagi is not only rich, but astoundingly more than he can ever imagine. While the group is welcomed with open arms, Haru is treated by the security detail as a suspicious character who they believe just snuck into the helicopter, so they tie him up at first sight. Nagi intervenes and tells the servants that he is her butler. Haru wants to speak up, but he can't, because he agrees that he is indeed a poor man. They get into the mansion, with Haru feeling down. Despite the opulence surrounding him, Haru feels acutely out of place. Maria and Nagi try to comfort him with words, but it does nothing for the boy. With the girls getting ready to dress up for the meeting with the grandfather, Nagi sends Haru outside to see the sights. As he explores the estate grounds, the thought of his huge debt lingers in his mind. He sees a vase in the garden and contemplates how it might be expensive enough to save him from his debt. He hears a voice telling him it will not be enough, scaring the butler, who feels like he just got caught in a crime. It turns out to be the voice of an elderly man who appears to be a simple landscaper. The old man wants to prove that he has the eyes for landscaping, so he encourages the boy to follow him through the grassy plains of the land. They arrive at a cliff with a view of one of the mansion walls. It turns out he brought Haru to take a peek at Nagi and Maria while they get dressed, so Haru drags the old man away, judging the old man for being perverse. They talk about the boy's huge debt and how grateful he is to Nagi for giving him a chance to pay it off. The old man suddenly gets serious and tells Haru how worthless he is and how he will spend his life repaying his debt. The old man reveals himself to be none other than Mikado himself, the head of the Sanzanin family. Mikado's blunt assessment of Haru's worthlessness strikes a chord within the young man. This pivotal moment leads to Mikado entrusting Haru with a pendant, saying that a day will come when Haru might prove himself worthy of a significant fortune that could absolve his debts many times over. Later on, Mikado meets with her granddaughter, who barely even greets the old man and tells him she wants nothing to do with him and his inheritance. This leads the old man to be in Maria's arms, crying his heart out. Nagi tells him that even if she does not get her heritage from him, she will have no trouble with money as long as she has the world business satellite and knows the flow of the stock market. The old man curses the business knowledge he gave her, pulls out the girl's homemade manga, and tells her he did not teach her to do these kinds of things. Nagi feels embarrassed, and she kicks her grandfather for it, which causes the old man to be in Maria's caring hands again. Returning to the outdoors, Haru remains gripped by feelings of worthlessness. Nagi approaches him, expressing her desire to leave rather than spend time with her grandfather. The boy notices her troubled expression, but before he can inquire further, a well-dressed man with fake blonde hair and a sword named Gilbert abruptly attacks him. It is revealed that Mikado informed Nagi that the entire Sanzanin estate would pass to anyone Nagi cries and apologizes to. Gilbert, driven by this knowledge, assaults Haru in hopes of manipulating her into complying. In this tense moment, Haru envisions a future where Nagi, deprived of her inheritance, lives in poverty. The thought of her suffering strikes him deeply, dispelling his own concerns about his worthlessness, and in turn, defeating Gilbert with a kick. The butler promises his master that he will always protect her from anyone who would make her cry. This pledge reassures Nagi, prompting the shy girl to thank him and reach for his hand. Mikado looks out the window at Nagi's helicopter leaving the castle. Sakuya is at Mikado's side, just realizing that she had been left behind. Back when Haru was still a child, she told a classroom about his home life with his parents. Despite the boy not realizing how sad his home life was, the teacher and classmates all looked at him with sad eyes. It turns out Haru was dreaming of his past and has just awakened in his room, haunted by Mikado's stark declaration that his life holds no value. He confides in Maria about his quest to find a dream that would give his existence purpose. Meanwhile, Nagi remains restless in her bed, blushing and unable to sleep since Haru's solemn vow to protect her. She wanders through the halls of the mansion and sees that they are shining with cleanliness. Maria explains that it is because Haru is in a good mood, since he has given himself a new dream and purpose. Nagi gets the wrong idea and thinks that the boy must want to marry her in the future. Curiosity about Haru's dream piques Maria's interest, leading her to ask the boy about it. Haru reveals that since childhood, his dream has been modest, a desire for a home with a living room, dining room, and kitchen. He recounts how sharing this dream with his classmates in elementary school moved them to tears, unaware of the sadness his story made them feel. Maria is disappointed that it turns out his big dream is just anybody's basic necessity, and she feels sorry for the boy. Filled with empathy, Maria insists that Haru take a day off and purchase a new cell phone. He buys his new phone, happy that it has the latest features. With his newfound free time, he thinks about how his old high school friends must be doing now. He realizes he finally has the time to visit his old high school, since he has not dropped out yet and is still technically a student. He visits the campus, where he encounters Nishiza. The former classmate blushes in delight to see him after a long absence. The boy tells her how he has a huge debt now, and so he needs to work for someone. The girl misunderstands, imagining that he must be dealing with suspicious debt collectors. Others of Haru's former classmates see him by the gate. One of them teases Nishiza, saying that she must be glad that her crush has returned. The girl is so embarrassed by what he is saying in front of Haru that she punches the man with the power of a huge explosion. Haru wonders if it is time for him to go back. However, a teacher shows up to inform him that he has already dropped out. He elaborates that the boy's parents refunded his tuition fee last Christmas. This gives Haru the realization that he can never go back. The girl tells him not to give up, but the boy sees no way out of it. Struggling to maintain a cheerful facade, Haru bids farewell to Nishiza, saying that it will be forever. Fearing they may never meet again, the girl grabs onto him and confesses her love for him. Haru does not understand why, but he thinks of how sad Nagi must feel about the confession. Not knowing what to do, the boy tells her he is only interested in 2D girls. The girl is left in sudden disbelief and beats up the poor boy for rejecting her. Returning to the mansion, Haru is greeted by Nagi, who eagerly inputs her contact information into his new phone, bringing a genuine smile to his face. Elsewhere, Nishiza visits Taro's video rental store, venting her fruitless search for the boy she likes. Moments later, Haru coincidentally enters the store to return DVDs, unknowingly evading Nishiza, who has just left the store door. She looks back and sees that Haru is exiting the place. She follows the boy wherever she goes, but she is unable to catch up or get his attention. She gets as far as seeing him enter Nagi's mansion gates. Since the place is so huge, she mistakenly believes that it must be the debt collector's home and that the boy needs rescuing. She is spotted by an army of security, who have all mistaken her for a suspicious intruder. The guards call Maria, who thinks that she might be one of Haru's old friends. Before the guards can let her go, she escapes their grasp and escapes within the vast forest of the estate. Lost and frightened, Nishiza encounters Tama, the tiger. Tama chases the girl until she trips and falls to the ground. As the tiger pounces at her, she instinctively calls out for Haru's help. Miraculously, Haru appears just in time to rescue her, subduing Tama with a well-aimed kick. Relieved to see him, Nishiza suggests they leave the eerie forest together. Their arrival is witnessed by Nagi. By instinct, both Nagi and Nishiza realize that they are rivals for Haru's affection, and they get into an intense stare down because of it. Nagi's aura is so powerful that it is like a dragon over Nishiza's aura, which is just a hamster. Nishiza realizes she is outmatched for now and leaves, promising to return for Haru. The spotlight's concern about Haru potentially leaving her resurfaces, prompting him to reassure her that the mansion is where he belongs. However, Nagi remains uneasy, noticing Haru's contemplative gaze as he watches Nishiza depart. Later that night, Nagi reflects on all the moments in which Haru has rescued her. She acknowledges how kind the boy has been to her, and she resolves to do something for him in return. As Haru diligently cleans drinking glasses in the mansion's pantry, his mind wanders to thoughts of Nishiza. Simultaneously, Nishiza roams the bustling streets in search of a place to eat. She looks at numerous restaurants, as all the guests claps at Haru, but she does not want to eat in any of them, since there are too many people. She finally spots a restaurant with no customers in it, and she comes. She orders everything she can find on the menu. After ordering, she wonders what Haru is doing. Back at the Sanzanin mansion, Haru continues to ponder the recent encounter between Nishiza and Nagi, and why they had such an intense stare-down. His contemplation is interrupted by the arrival of a letter delivered by the mail carrier. As he returns inside, he recalls Nishiza's heartfelt confession of love to him, and still wonders why thoughts of Nagi's sad face came to him at that moment. He goes to Nagi, who surprises him since the letter contains a transfer form allowing him to enroll in Hakuo Academy, with Nagi generously offering to cover all his school expenses. Overwhelmed with emotion, Haru tears up at the realization that he can once again pursue his education. However, Klaus imposes the condition that Haru must pass an entrance exam to officially become the Sanzanin butler. Otherwise, the boy will be fired. Haru does not care about the threat, believing it is his duty as a butler and a man to pass the entrance exam. However, he returns to his doubtful demeanor, realizing he needs to score more than 65. He rises through the doubts again, only for Nagi to tell him that the exam is already tomorrow. That night, Haru dedicates himself to studying in his room, hoping to prepare as best he can. Maria gives him some snacks to help him through his studies and advises him to take it easy. Heeding the maid's advice, Haru readies to sleep. However, he is surprised to see that Klaus is sleeping on his bed. The boy wakes him up and tries to force him out. The man tells him that the boy is getting the wrong idea from him, since he wants him to pass the entrance exam. Klaus shares a personal anecdote from his childhood about a daunting puzzle test he faced to gain entry into a prestigious kindergarten. He was tested to solve a shape puzzle toy within a time limit, but he couldn't think of a way to solve the final piece. At the last second, he lost hope and bumped his head onto the floor. The triangle-shaped puzzle piece locked into the right corner, passing the exam. Despite everything, Klaus still continues to sleep in his bed. The boy kicks him out, and he goes to sleep. However, the boy's sleep gets disturbed, seeing that Tama is in his room at his desk. The tiger offers him every answer in the test, but this only insults the boy, so he kicks him out too. The boy puts every heavy object against his door. He returns to sleep, only for the tiger to sneak from an opening in the ceiling and whisper in the boy's ear just for a laugh. Haru is so angry, he throws him out of the window. The morning arrives, and Haru, accompanied by Nagi, goes to Hakuou Academy. The campus is so huge that the two need to ride a train to get to the exam site. Yuri ambushes them on the train, telling them that the test will not be a regular exam. She takes them into the exam room. Haru fears the worst, only to be confronted with the unexpected sight of a banana hanging from a string. Haru quickly assesses the situation, dismissing the tools as distractions, since the banana is low enough that he can grab it. He grabs the banana directly, but it turns out monkeys have been in the corner of the classroom all along and have only waited for someone to grab the banana so they can get it from them. Haru eats the banana, leading to a chaotic brawl with the monkeys. Yuri reveals that the banana test was merely a prank of hers, and not the actual exam, frustrating the butler. Haru is so mentally and physically taxed because of the prank that he is struggling with the actual pen and paper exam. Despite the boy's pessimism about his abilities, Nagi has faith that her butler succeeded in the test. They go home, holding hands. Meanwhile, at the Hakuou Academy's superintendent's office, Yuri is holding the test result in her hand, and she is in a cold sweat seeing that Haru has failed. The woman on the chair tells Yuri that Haru could have passed if only he had one more correct answer in the exam, making Yuri feel guilty. She leaves the teacher with the task of delivering the rejection letter to the boy. Yuri is panicking, not knowing what to do. Back at Nagi's mansion, the group discusses a party to celebrate Haru's entry into Hakuou Academy. As Haru and Nagi play video games, the boy tells Nagi that they might not need to celebrate prematurely, recollecting how many roadblocks he had to go through that might have affected the results of his exam. However, the girl confidently insists on a celebration party, believing Haru has passed his transfer exam to Hakuou Academy. Meanwhile, Yuri returns to her family house to ask her sister for some advice in her panicked state. She informs Hina that Haru tried out for the transfer exam for Hakuou Academy. The teacher confesses to her little sister Hina about the prank she pulled on Haru before the exam, which led to his failure. Outraged, Hina beats up her sister and then calls Maria to explain the situation. The sisters decide to head to Nagi's mansion so Yuri can apologize to Haru personally. Meanwhile, Maria is having a hard time telling Nagi and Hatai about the bad news, since they are already busy getting ready for the celebration. The sisters arrive at the mansion, and Maria walks them to the ballroom. There, the extravagant party is already in full swing, with many guests wearing suits and dresses crowding the dance floor. The scene only makes Yuri even more nervous to bring up the bad news. Doubling down on the wound, Klaus approaches the sisters and thanks Yuri for admitting the boy into the academy, who both dance together for all to see. Klaus comments on how happy they look together, tripling down on Yuri's wound. Klaus goes on to say that he must have passed because he threatened to fire the boy if he failed the exam, panicking the teacher even more. Meanwhile, as they dance, Naga comments on how she just wanted a cosplay party with just the two of them, only for Klaus to change everything up for a bigger celebration. Haru tells her he does not mind, because the girl looks beautiful in her dress, putting a blush on Naga's face. They continue the dance, feeling happier than ever. Yuri pushes herself to have the courage to face Haru with the news. He approaches the boy with something to say. Before she can put her words across, the spotlight switches on for her, and Klaus encourages her to give a speech. Instead of saying the truth, the young woman puts on a smile and congratulates the boy. Klaus announces to the guests that Sumi was also scheduled for a speech, but she got lost on the way to the mansion and is not available. He moves on to present Sakuya's gift of a statue of her stepping on Haru. Nagi feels bad that Sumi and Sakuya cannot make it to the party, but Haru tells her that it is okay since Hina and Yuri are at the party instead. This makes Nagi wonder why they are at the mansion. Hina pulls her aside to reveal the truth about Haru's failure, prompting Nagi to think of solutions. The two return to the ballroom to see that Haru has taken the stage to deliver a heartfelt speech about finally living his dream of continuing high school. As the people clap at his speech, Yuri makes another attempt to confess the truth, but Haru's joy at the prospect of Yuri being his homeroom teacher causes her to falter once more. Frustrated, Hina and Nagi drag Yuri aside, scolding her for her inability to apologize. Yuri decides to keep the truth a secret and devises elaborate plans to ensure Haru never finds out. Izumi, Miki, and Risa suddenly arrive at the ballroom. They brought the rejection letter that Yuri left at the school and unknowingly revealed Haru's rejection letter to everyone, not realizing he hadn't yet received the bad news. Yuri finally apologizes, but the boy is already gone. Upon seeing the proof of his failure, Haru slips away from the party to sulk by the lake. Maria finds him there and tells him everyone is worried about him. Haru, overcome with guilt and disappointment, breaks down, saying it's all his fault for having such high hopes. Maria puts Haru's face close to hers, and she reveals to him his new Hakuou Academy student ID, explaining that she sent a recommendation to the academy, leading to his acceptance. Overjoyed, Haru shouts his determination to become the best butler for Nagi's sake. With the issue resolved, Maria suddenly feels embarrassed about how close she was to Haru's face.